The cryptic prediction, the prophecy that was fulfilled. A Devar Torah by Rabbi Broder. I would like to start this Torah talk by saying that I firmly believe that the 20th century hosted one of the most significant events in Jewish history, the establishment of a Jewish state. Today we have a Jewish state that has made clear progress in the fulfillment of the prophecies of Yeshayahu and Yirmiyahu, Isaiah and Jeremiah. We have seen how a devastated Jerusalem has been rebuilt, and the streets of Jerusalem resound with the sound of Torah, the voice of prayer, and the sound of joyous celebrations of Jewish marriages. Yet unfortunately, there are many, far too many communities who do not share this point of view. There are many communities that refuse to say a prayer for the state of Israel. Indeed, there are many communities that actually say tachanun, a prayer of despair and depression. They say this prayer of tachanun on Yom HaAtzmaut, the Independence Day of the State of Israel. And I'm frightened to say that many individuals actually embrace the enemies of Israel and share their wish to see the destruction, chas v'sholom, of the state of Israel. Unfortunately, these people believe that the state of Israel is illegitimate, and they are waiting for Mashiach to bring about our true redemption. Are they correct? Is their belief justified? I believe their beliefs are not correct. And I hope the following Devar Torah will make them question their beliefs. Let's start by posing the following question. How can one know that an event was divinely ordained? One way is, in my opinion, is if a prophet or a great Torah scholar predicted that a future event, either good or bad, would take place, and it did take place, then this would clearly indicate the role of Hashem in bringing this event to fruition. And now we can ask the following question. Has any renowned rabbinical scholar indicated his belief and trust in Hashem to predict that the 20th century would be the time for such a miraculous transformation in the affairs and status of the Jewish people? I believe the answer to this question is yes. One renowned rabbi did make such a prediction. But the prediction he made is cryptic. It can only be explained through hindsight. And also, it can be explained through reference to two other giants of Torah scholarships. So let us begin this journey of enlightenment with the study of the second Mishna in Pirkei Avos, chapter 5. In Pirkei Avos, chapter 5, Mishnah 2, we come across the words, there were 10 generations from Adam to Noach in order to make known how long-suffering is Hashem. All these 10 generations cause aggravation to Hashem until he finally brought upon them the waters of the flood. Now let's look at the commentary of the Bartenura upon these words. Bartenura makes the following comment upon these words. Af atar al titamor sheherich l'umas olam. You too should not be surprised that Hashem has been patient with the nations of the world. All of these years that they are subjugating his children, since he was far more patient with the generation from Adam to Noah. But afterwards they were washed away with the flood. So in his comment on this Mishna, Bartenura addresses the people of his generation. He says, we, all of us, we've been suffering for many years from the persecution of the nations around us. But be aware that Hashem is loath to punish people even when they behave badly. Hashem is a patient deity and he is long-suffering. Now, be aware that the length of period of time of those 10 generations was far greater than the period of the time of our suffering. So we will have to wait a bit longer. But, the Bartenura says, I can assure you, there is a limit to Hashem's patience, and when that limit is reached, you will be redeemed. Now, the Tosfos Yontiv understands his comments as a prediction of hope and comfort. And what's more, he adds more specific details to this prediction. So let's look at the next slide. Tosfos Yontiv, as you can see, he lived from the years 1570 to 1654. And he accepted Bartenura's comment as a genuine and a realistic prophecy. Now, first of all, he transformed 10 generations into a realistic numerical figure. And he came to the following conclusion. We know that the flood happened 1656 years after creation. We also know, says the Tosfos Yontiv, the temple was destroyed 3828 years after creation. So he works out as follows. We can now, with confidence, we can work out the year of our redemption and make the calculation and wait for him, for he will not delay. And this is how he made the calculation. Temple was destroyed in the year 3828. Add on 1656 years, and you end up with the year 1724. And that was a prediction made by Tosfos Yontiv as to when the Geula would come. Now we know that, unfortunately, Tosfos Yontiv's prediction did not materialize. The year 1724 did not see any change in the fortunes of the Jewish nation. However, I believe we should not immediately discard the words of Bartenura. Let's look a bit deeper into this matter. Why should we consider that the destruction of the temple was the start of Hashem's patience and tolerance? Perhaps we can use a different year in Jewish history in order to regard the words of comfort of Bartenura as a positive prediction. So let's take a look at the very profound passage from the Gemara in Kesuvos, page 111. Let's go to the Gemara in Kesuvos, Daf Kuf Yud Aleph, page 111. It's a famous Gemara. It's known as the Gemara of the Shlosha Shavuos, the Gemara of the 3 Oaths, O-A-T-H-S. 2 of these oaths Hashem made with the Jewish people. The 3rd oath was made with the Gentile nations of the world. Now Hashem adjured, imposed a shavua, an oath upon the Jewish people, not to ascend to Israel b'chomo or kechomo, as the war in the form of a war. He also adjured them not to rebel against the nations of the world. Now the wording, they should not go up b'chomo, is enigmatic. He should have said unambiguously, they, the Jewish people, should not wage war to occupy the land. And perhaps the meaning is as follows. To wage war is patently forbidden, and to wait for Mashiach is also not required. There's no oath mentioned that the Jewish people have to wait for Mashiach before resettling in the land. It's not a requirement. The only way to occupy the land is by settling there. However, they should not emigrate to Israel in large numbers and create barriers, a choma, walls, that prevent the indigenous population from being comfortable in the land. In fact, Israel today has adopted this benign policy. Arab Israelis, they sit in the Knesset. They study in Israel's universities. And Arab Israelis enjoy the benefits of Israel's medical services. There is no apartheid in the modern state of Israel. Now this oath is vastly different from Rashi's opinion at the beginning of Torah. Rashi said there that if the nations accuse the children of Israel of being robbers, they can reply, no, we're not robbers. Hashem created the world and he gave the land to whomever he pleased. Now that we conquered it, it means that Hashem has given it to us. This comment of Rashi in Bereshis implies the conquest of the land creates a new ownership. An ownership approved by HaKadosh Baruch Hu, by Hashem. In fact, Tosfos Yontif uses this reasoning to justify the legality of Jewish title to Israel. When Cyrus, after conquering the land of Israel, he gave the Jewish people the right to live there. Now, this first oath in Gemara Kesuvos clearly indicates a departure from such an opinion. Conquest is no longer the means of acquiring title in the land, and for obvious reasons. The conquest of the land of Israel by Joshua was primarily for the purpose of ridding the land of Israel from nations that contaminated the land. Indeed, Avraham Avinu, our father Abraham, he was informed by Hashem that his descendants would have to wait for 4 generations, wait until the sin of the Amorites was complete. And only then could they be driven out. And there are other references in Torah regarding the same issue. However, in the time when the 3 oaths were proclaimed, that factor of contamination was no longer extant. Therefore, conquest of the land was no longer a viable and acceptable way to achieve statehood. It could only be achieved by peaceful and by legal means. It is important to note that we must always be aware that Torah demands that we have to be an segula, a model of holiness and righteousness to the nations of the world. were we to wage war to reconquer the land, as for Shalom, we would be regarded as savages and barbarians. The essence of the first oath was to recognize our true role in world affairs, to become an Segula, a nation that is a beacon of light to the nations of the world. The second oath goes one stage further than the first one. Not only is conquest unacceptable as a mode of acquisition, but the very formation of a state requires international consent. Now, let's look at the third oath. The oath which was made with the Gentile nations. An oath where Hashem adjured the Gentile nations not to excessively persecute the Jewish people. Now, did this oath actually take place? Did Hashem inform the Gentile nations of such an oath? How? By what means? Or is it simply declaring to the Jewish people that Hashem has put into place a mechanism, in inverted commas, a mechanism that were this oath violated, nevertheless Hashem would bring about a state of Israel that would be approved by the nations of this world? Further question can now be asked regarding this third oath. What limit, in human terms, is there to Hashem's patience? And the answer is clearly stated by Tosfos Shantov. The limit of Hashem's patience is 1656 years. But when did those 1656 years commence? Clearly not from the destruction of the temple. We must say it started from the time when Hashem issued those three oaths. So let's go back to the Gemara, Kesuvos, Daf Kuf Yud Aleph, page 111, and let me reveal to you some basic details of the life of Rabbi Yossi Bar Chanina, the author of those three oaths. Yossi Bar Chanina received his semicha from Rabbi Yochanan ben Nafka in the 3rd century of the Common Era. And Rabbi Yossi Bar Chanina came to full prominence after the year 280 CE, following the death of the accepted Gadol Hador, Rabbi Elazar ben Pados. It can be assumed that his major Torah statement concerning the three oaths was made round about the year 290 CE. Remarkably, 1656 years after the year 290 is the modern era of the middle of the 20th century. The century that hosted, unfortunately, the Holocaust, but also the total destruction of its perpetrators. The century that hosted the vote in the United Nations approving the establishing of a Jewish state, and the century that hosted the establishment of the Jewish state. Baruch Hashem, the cryptic prediction of the Bartenura has finally been fulfilled.